If you're over 35, maybe even 40 or 50 and still single, let's be real. You're probably wondering if your shot at love has expired. You feel like time is running out and dating feels like, climbing Mount Everest with a backpack full of regrets and responsibilities. But let me tell you something. You're looking at this all wrong. You're probably sitting back wondering, did I miss my chance? Dating, it might feel like running through quicksand. You see younger couples everywhere and it feels like time is slipping through your fingers. And if you have kids, well, the mountain feels even steeper. The world tells you that your options are limited, that your best years are behind you. And that thought, well, it keeps you up at night. But let me shake you awake right now. You see, love isn't about the right age. It's about being the right person. And more importantly, it's about meeting the right person at the right time, God's time. See, we live in a world that tries to convince us that everything has to happen fast, fast love, fast success, fast results. But anything worth having takes preparation. What if you're still single because God's protecting you? What if he's molding you into the person that your future partner needs? What if he's, cleaning out the wrong one so the right one has space to enter your life? See, God's delay, it's not his denial. You're not behind schedule. You're exactly where you need to be. And I'm not speaking from a distance. I've lived this. I was in my mid-30s focused on myself, healing from a past that I didn't always understand, trying to rebuild parts of my life that were broken. I wasn't out there chasing love. I wasn't swiping endlessly or going on meaningless dates just to fill time. I was just working on me. And in that season of surrender, when I gave up control and truly trusted God's timing, he blessed me with someone who exceeded every expectation that I had. Now I'm more in love than I ever imagined possible. This kind of love, it's peaceful, it's secure, it's real. And it didn't come when I wanted it. It came when I was ready to receive it. That's the beauty of divine timing. See, society tries to put you on a clock. It tells you that after 30, your chances will start shrinking. That if you're not married by 35, you're on borrowed time. But God doesn't run on your clock. He's not looking at your age. He's looking at your heart. And sometimes he allows you to experience delay so you can grow, so you can heal, so you can see what love actually means. We live in a highlight reel world. You scroll through social media and see engagements, weddings, baby announcements, anniversary, and then you start to feel like you're falling behind. But you don't know what's behind those smiles. See, some of those couples, they're miserable. Some of them settled. Some of them are living together, but emotionally, worlds apart. You see, love without depth is like a house without a foundation. It might look good, but one storm can knock it down. Now, let me give you some real perspective. A study from the Stanford University found that people who married in their mid to late 30s, well, they reported higher satisfaction and stability in their relationship than those who married in their 20s. You know why? Well, because when you've lived a little, when you've healed, when you've had your heart broken and stitched it back together with wisdom and prayer, you walk into love differently. You don't settle for potential. You look for patterns. You're not impressed by charm. You want character. See, God, it doesn't waste pain. Every tear that you cried in your past relationship was watering the soil for something greater. Every time someone walked out on you, lied to you, cheated on you, that wasn't a loss. That was redirection. God was pulling weeds so that the right person could flourish in your life. Think about a puzzle. When you force the wrong piece into a space that it doesn't belong, the whole picture, well, it gets distorted. But when you wait and trust the process, every piece starts to fit perfectly. That's how God works. He doesn't, throw people into your life at random. He orchestrates timing, healing, growth. So when the right one comes, you're both aligned. And let me tell you, I've seen people find love in their 50s and say it's better than anything they experienced in their 20s. I've seen single parents find partners who not only love them, but also love their children like their own. That's the power of divine matchmaking. When God writes the love story, it comes with peace, not confusion, clarity, not chaos. Let's talk about the fear of that comes with having children. So many people tell themselves, no one's going to want me. I've got baggage. I've got responsibilities. But let me stop you right there. You don't have baggage. You have blessings. The right person will see your children as an extension of you. They'll love your kids, not because they have to, but because their heart expands naturally to include them. Now, let's go deeper, though, into finding love at a later life. The Bible gives us story after story of people who received blessings later in life. Look at Abraham and Sarah. They were old, way past what the world considered their prime, but God promised them a child. And even though it seemed impossible, even though they laughed and disbelieved, God delivered. Isaac was born. And that child became a part of the foundation of a nation. Don't tell me that God can't do the impossible. Don't tell me that your time has passed. Sarah gave birth in her old age because God doesn't play by, our rules or other people's rules. His timing, it's not just perfect, it's purposeful. Now, let me tell you this. Some of you are asking God to send you someone new, but you're still clinging to the old. You're texting your ex, scrolling through memories, hoping that they'll change, but God is trying to close that chapter for a reason. You can't start the next season of your life still stuck in the last one. Remember Lot's wife when God was leading her and her family out of Sodom? He gave one instruction: don't look back. But she couldn't help herself. She turned around and she turned into a pillar of salt, frozen, stuck in the past. How many of us are doing the same thing? We keep looking back at what hurt us, what failed us, who left us, and we wonder why we can't move forward. God doesn't call you to look back. He calls you to rise, to heal, to become. That season where you feel like nothing's happening, that's the gym for your soul. That's where God is sharpening you. That's where he's teaching you how to set boundaries, how to trust your discernment, how to hear his voice more clearly. He's not preparing you to date. He's preparing you to love. And let me make something really clear. This isn't about waiting around for someone to save you. This is about becoming someone worth walking into love with. You want real love? Well, become real yourself. Heal the parts of you that sabotage connection. Confront the pain that you've ignored. Grow through what you've gone through. Don't just wait for the right person. Prepare for them. If I had met the love of my life in my 20s or maybe even early 30s, it probably wouldn't have worked. I wasn't ready. I was, living a life to please the world. I was, making selfish decisions. I was still carrying trauma, still reacting out of the wounds. But in my mid-30s, something shifted. I started asking different questions. I stopped chasing potential and started walking in purpose. And when love came, it didn't feel like a rescue. It felt like a reward. Listen, I want to speak directly to the voice in your head telling you that you're too late. That you missed, the window, that all the good ones are already taken. Silence it. That voice isn't God. It's fear, and fear is a liar. The truth is God saves the best for last. And that's not a cute phrase. It's a promise. Matthew 6:33 says, "Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." That means love isn't something that you chase. It's something that you attract by alignment. When your heart is in the right place, when you're walking in truth, when you've surrendered your timeline to God, he adds, he provides, he multiplies. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm saying it's going to be worth it, because when the right person comes, there will be no drama, no confusion, no emotional games, just peace. And you'll look at them and think, this is what I was waiting for. And don't let anyone rush you. Don't let loneliness trick you into settling. Loneliness, it's a season. It's not a life sentence. Use this time to build, use it to grow, to deepen your faith. Because when love comes, it should find you thriving, not surviving. I know what it feels like to wonder if your time is up. I know what it feels like to cry yourself to sleep and ask God why, it hasn't happened yet. But also, I know what it feels like to wake up one day and realize he heard every prayer, he saw every tear, and he was working even when I couldn't see it. So let this be your reminder. You're not forgotten. You're not too old. You're not too late. You're simply being prepared. Love, it doesn't expire. It evolves. And sometimes the greatest love stories, they start after the world says that they should have ended. So, to wrap this video up, let me leave you with this. Don't pray for love to come fast. Pray for it to come right. Pray for it to come when both hearts are whole, when both minds are clear, when both souls are aligned. Because when God is the author of your love story, it doesn't start with desperation. It starts with peace. And when it comes, you'll know, because it won't feel like chaos. It'll feel like home.